Hello, and thank you for joining us to hear about our Sustainable New Year's resolutions. I'm Cassandra Snelling, Marketing Manager of Global Sustainability at Sonoco. Today, you will hear a brief introduction of Sonoco, followed by a few of our 2021 highlights, our 2022 resolutions, and how they will influence our 2025 and 2030 corporate commitments. Founded in 1899, Sonoco is a global provider of consumer, industrial, healthcare, and protective packaging. With annualized net sales of approximately $5.5 billion, the company has approximately 19,000 employees working in more than 300 operations in 34 countries, serving some of the world's best-known brands in some 85 nations. Sonoco is committed to creating sustainable products, services, and programs for our customers, employees, and communities that support our corporate purpose of better packaging, better life. The company was listed as one of Fortune's World's Most Admired Companies for 2021, as well as Barron's 100 Most Sustainable Companies for the third consecutive year. Sonoco believes that people build businesses, and we are committed to a diverse community. We believe at Sonoco that our people should be as diverse as our customers. We speak 18 languages, and our people-first philosophy remains the same. We only seek suppliers who share our beliefs and invest 10% of every dollar in diversity initiatives. Now let's unpack our business. From rigid paper and plastics to flexible packaging and hybrid options, we have an integrated packaging solution to help move products and brands from creation to consumer. Whether the product is sold on the perimeter or the center of the store, our packaging and merchandising capabilities can increase its speed to market while also increasing shelf and shopper appeal through innovative design that adds value to the customer's marketing and manufacturing. Industrial markets demand exacting performance from both products and services. We apply technological and manufacturing rigor to products ranging from high-performance tubes and cores for paper, textiles, specialty films, and other wound products, to the paper, corrugated, and uncoated recycle board we produce for a wide range of applications around the world. Sonoco manufactures a wide range of protective solutions for a variety of markets. We make temperature-assured packaging for pharmaceuticals and other biologics, highly engineered foam products used in vehicles to improve safety and carbon footprint, and protective solutions to ensure the safe delivery and efficient storage of durable consumer goods like washers, refrigerators, and HVAC systems. We also understand the medical, pharmaceutical, and biotech industries, as well as the regulations that govern them. From sterile, non-sterile, or temperature-assured packaging to the fabrication of diverse medical device components, Sonoco has a solution for healthcare specialties too. As you can see, sustainability at Sonoco is a top priority across all our segments and markets. It's why we're here. We have made some substantial improvements since 2009 in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, direction emissions from our operations, and the reduction of water usage. We also have 86% equivalent by weight of our packages that are recycled today, and 100% uncoated recycled paperboard with 85% post-consumer fiber. And now, I would like to introduce Elizabeth Rue, Staff Vice President of Global Sustainability, to dive into our sustainability commitments and what you can expect to see from us this year.
Thank you, Cassandra, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We're really excited to talk about our wins from 2021 as well as our plans for 2022 and beyond. So as we go to the next slide, we want to start off by talking a little bit about some of our accomplishments from 2021. First of all, we were able to continue to expand upon our Forest Stewardship Council certification for our fiber-based products by certifying some of our facilities, including our facilities in Sungabulo, Malaysia, Mechelen, Belgium, and a number of other locations across the US, Europe, and Asia. In addition, our team has done quite a bit of work to expand the recycling of our rigid paper containers globally. We partnered with ACE UK in the United Kingdom to have our cans accepted in their Bring Bank drop-off centers, where our cans can now be returned by the consumer to these drop-off centers alongside their aseptic and gable top cartons. We've also done a number of projects here in the US where we are now accepting our manufacturing can scrap in our paper mills, as well as we've announced late last year that our paper mills are able to take any of our rigid paper containers in residential mixed paper streams as well. And I'll talk later about additional work that we're doing to expand the recyclability of that format. We also were very excited to have our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions reductions commitments validated by the Science Based Targets Initiative, and something that's very important to Sonoco as well as many of our customers. As we move to the next slide, we also were recognized for a number of sustainability related awards and recognitions. First of all, 2 of our MRFs in Raleigh and Onslow, North Carolina were awarded grants from the Polypropylene Coalition to help further advance the recycling of polypropylene. As a top 10 recycler, Sonoco is in the unique position to be able to both influence the beginning of life and end of life for packaging. So we were excited to be awarded those grants so that we can help drive further recycling of polypropylene packaging. We also were excited to receive the EcoVadis Gold Sustainability Rating, which was an improvement from our previous ratings, driven largely by better documentation and transparency around our labor and human rights practices, as well as our continued efforts on sustainable procurement. And then lastly, our innovations in packaging have been recognized as well. We received the Innovation in Sustainability Award from the AF&PA for our alloy paper blister package, and we've also received a number of other awards for other packaging formats as well. And so now we'll move forward to talking a bit about before we talk about 2022, we'll also highlight that we launched our Sustainability Hub in 2021 as well. This is a place where you can find rich content about sustainability, where we're talking about everything from our people to the products to the processes that we have around driving sustainability throughout our organization, as well as general sustainability trends. And now we'll talk about what's coming next in 2022 and where we'll focus. But before we get into talking about specific details, I think there's 2 things that I want to share with you today to level set why we're doing what we're doing. The first will be a video that highlights our 2025 commitments as well as our 2030 commitments. And then I'll talk about our sustainability approach. So we'll start off with our video.
At Sonoco, we believe people build businesses by doing the right thing. The right thing for the planet and people is for us to be a sustainable packaging solutions provider. Every vision needs strategic, measurable goals. So where are we headed? By 2025, we will recycle or cause to recycle 85% equivalent by weight of products we put into the marketplace. All of our production facilities, utilizing plastic pellets, will have systems to prevent environmental discharge. We will not use resin additives that purport to degrade in landfills or waterways by breaking into microplastics. 75% of our global rigid plastic packaging will be able to make relevant on-pack recyclable claims. We will continue to work closely with our customers to help them achieve their PCR content commitments. We will conduct water risk studies at our manufacturing facilities, which account for at least 90% of our water usage. We've made a lot of progress in each of these goals, but we're striving for more. A global cross-functional team set well-researched environmental commitments to be achieved by 2030. We have committed to validated science-based targets aligned with keeping global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. Sonoco will reduce our absolute Scope 1 and 2 emissions at least 25%. In cooperation with our suppliers and customers, we will reduce our Scope 3 emissions in line with the 2 degrees Celsius absolute contraction approach, resulting in at least 13.5% absolute Scope 3 emissions reductions. We will continue energy efficiency improvements in our manufacturing plants and reduce normalized energy use by at least 8%. We are already studying necessary operational changes, technology developments, and market changes that would be required to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. These goals are guiding us towards a more sustainable future, but we have a lot of exciting initiatives to celebrate today. Learn more about how Sonoco innovates with sustainability in mind by visiting our newly launched Sustainability Hub.
And so as you can see from that video, we have quite a few commitments that we're hoping to drive towards in 2022, and obviously more work to be done beyond 2022. So as we move to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about how do we tackle these commitments. What's our approach to driving our sustainability commitments forward? And it really comes into three key buckets: product, infrastructure, and partnerships. When we talk about product, we're talking about, the products that we put on the shelf and what we're able to do in terms of material development or leveraging emerging technologies to help drive better solutions, better packaging solutions for the products that we put on the shelf today. Infrastructure. When we think about infrastructure, that includes the infrastructure around end of life for our packaging formats, as well as emerging infrastructure around clean and renewable energy, as well as even the infrastructure around data collection and how we collect data and how that data can be used to operate more efficiently and to drive more sustainable solutions. And then lastly, partnerships. How do we leverage all of our partners across the value chain, from academia to our customers to our supply chain, to help deliver on solutions? So moving to the next slide, we're going to talk about what do we plan to do from a packaging development perspective in 2022. With our flexible packaging business, we'll continue our focus on moving from multi-material structures to monomaterial flexible packaging structures. With our rigid plastics business, we'll continue to focus on increasing the recyclability and recycling rates of our thermoform packaging, especially our black PET and polypropylene thermoform packages in our prepared and specialty foods businesses today, by focusing on NIR detectable substrate colors, whether that be NIR detectable black or other colors. With our rigid paper business, we're continuing to focus on increasing recyclability of that package. And in addition to the work that we're doing from an infrastructure perspective to increase the recyclability of our current formats, we're continuing to develop and increase the percentage of paper in those packages, looking at developing and commercializing paper bottom and paper overcap technology across the globe for that format. In addition, we plan to continue to expand our award-winning paper blister technology and commercialize in other opportunities and applications. And then when we look at our industrial business, we are continuing to commercialize and expand our Sonopost fiber-based protective packaging. We move to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the things that we're doing as it relates to infrastructure to help influence our goals. I talked earlier about expanding our recycling of our rigid paper containers. We're continuing to do work to increase the number of MRFs in municipalities that accept those cans in their recycling streams to increase the rate of recyclability. We're also branching out beyond Sonoco paper mills to other paper mills to demonstrate recyclability of that can through the paper stream outside of the Sonoco mill network. So giving the opportunity for that package to be both recycled in a steel stream, as it is largely done today in the US, as well as in a paper stream. And we're also working on sortation technologies that allow that can to be sorted either in a steel or paper stream, depending on the MRF and the end market that we're targeting. We've also partnered with NAPCOR and a number of other organizations to help drive increased recyclability of PET thermoforms. In fact, our Columbia MRF, Columbia, South Carolina MRF has been engaged in a study with NAPCOR to understand PET thermoform recycling rates in that area. And we expect that study to conclude, at least in our facility, in the first quarter of this year. We also have continued to roll out Operation Clean Sweep across our plastic, resin, and pellet utilizing facilities. As it was stated in our video, one of our goals is to ensure that we don't have any plastic, pellet, or resin discharge into the environment. And the way that we're doing that is through Operation Clean Sweep. For those of you who aren't familiar with Operation Clean Sweep, It's a program that's really focused on putting policies and procedures in place to ensure the proper handling of plastic pellets and resins from everything from transportation to storage to use within your facilities, and calls for, in some cases, changes to processes or changes to equipment and other means to capture resins. And then lastly, we'll be focused on our emissions reduction strategy and driving that forward, ultimately to get to our goal of 25% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. So as we move to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about our emissions reduction strategy. It's really a three-pronged strategy focused on the energy that we produce in our own facilities and looking at how can we use renewable energy in our own facilities, whether that's solar power, biomass energy, or other renewable energy sources. Also, secondly, looking at our operational footprint and how can we be more efficient in our operations, whether that's projects as simple as lighting projects and compressed air projects, all the way to increasing the efficiency of our plant boiler systems and other systems that use energy. And then lastly, looking at the energy that we purchase and looking for sources of clean, renewable energy, as well as helping to drive developments in clean and renewable energy through power purchase agreements and virtual power purchase agreements. So let's move to the next slide and talk about a couple of projects that we have ongoing today that fit within our emissions reduction strategy. The first is a project here on our Hartsville campus that's focused on converting our waste methane from our Hartsville mill effluent into biogas. It's a $2.45 million project that's meant to deliver about $400,000 in savings annually. But more importantly to us, we expect that it will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 3,800 metric tons of CO2 equivalent annually. As we move to the next slide, we also have a project going on in our Jamesburg can plant to add solar panels to that plant to drive a renewable energy source in that facility. This is a $1.5 million project, again, expected to generate about $280,000 savings annually. But again, more importantly to us, about 1,500 metric tons in CO2 equivalent we're expected to save through this project. So we move to our next slide. As we said, partnerships kind of fills out our three-pronged approach to sustainability. We recognize that no one company can solve for packaging sustainability on its own. So it's important that we work with a network of other partners to deliver on solutions. And what we're focused on at Sonoco in 2022 is really understanding not just where should we be members of an organization, but where should we be members of a subcommittee or a working group where we can drive the most value for that organization and where that organization can drive the most value for Sonoco. So we'll move on to our next slide and talk about how is some of the work that I've already talked about going to drive towards our 2025 commitments, and what improvements will we see in our 2025 commitment performance as a result of this work. So first of all, looking at our NIR detectable black polypropylene and PET thermoforms, the work that we're doing there. That's going to help us with our goal to have 75% of our rigid plastic portfolio eligible to make the relevant on-pack recyclability claim. At the end of 2021, we sat at roughly 55%, and we hope with those commercialization of those technologies that will help us reach about 63% against that goal. We are continuing to roll out Operation Clean Sweep across more of our facilities globally. At the end of 2021, we had about 23% of our plastic resin utilizing facilities that were engaged in Operation Clean Sweep. We expect to hit over 90% by the end of 2022. And then in 2022, we'll continue to look at how do we enhance our post-consumer recycled content strategy, thinking about how do we expand PCR into more of our product portfolio, and how do we ensure supply on an ongoing basis of that material. And then we'll continue to look at new and emerging technologies that can help round out our packaging portfolio. So we'll move to the next slide and talk about what else can you expect. So those are some of the things that we're doing, but undergirding all of those things are really some foundational things that we're doing at Sonoco to really drive these commitments and sustainability across our organization. First of all, we'll be tracking sustainability. We've revamped our capital approval process to capture our capital expenditures that are directly tied to sustainability. We think this is important to ensure that we're putting our dollars where our mouths are, but also to ensure that in future regulatory environments where we may need to report on this, that we've already started the process of tracking that information. We've also instituted a shadow carbon pricing for all capital projects as well, so we can understand the true cost of carbon for any new projects and the true impact of greenhouse gas emissions on new projects that we are implementing across the company. We also think it's important to measure our sustainability performance. And as such, we are beginning to tie our management incentives to our sustainability metrics and goals. And furthermore, we're hoping to drive sustainability objectives throughout the entire organization so that these commitments aren't simply the commitments of our sustainability and environmental organizations, but they're truly commitments that are owned by the entire company. And then lastly, we're excited to announce that we have issued our first green bonds in support of our sustainability strategy. You can check out our green financing framework on our website to hear more details about the eligible project categories that fit within our green bond framework. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
So we do have a few questions. The first is, how did Sonoco develop the corporate commitments?
So our corporate commitments were really developed by a cross-functional group of folks across the globe. So people not just in our sustainability and environmental teams, but people across our operations and different functional areas really coming together and taking information that we have from our customers, from what our peer group is doing, as well as those things that are important to Sonoco, and kind of filtering all those things through and ultimately determining what are the things that we think are important for Sonoco and that are important for us to commit to.
So our next question is, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge toward meeting your commitments?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's certainly a lot of challenges. These are not easy commitments to meet. Really, I think part of it comes down to technology and infrastructure, whether that's the product sustainability commitments that we have focused on 2025, or whether those are the operational footprint commitments we have for 2030. So whether that's material technology or infrastructure around end of life to help drive those goals, or challenges around technology around energy, green energy, as well as green energy sources for high energy intensive businesses. So I think those are going to be our biggest challenges to meeting our commitments, but our goal is to make sure that we're staying abreast of those new technologies and that we are leveraging them where possible.
So our next question is, how do you expect EPR legislation to impact brand owners' reluctance to pay premiums and/or accept performance differences associated with sustainable packaging?
Yeah, so obviously extended producer responsibility fees have become a huge conversation piece, especially here in the US. Obviously, EPR has been around a while in other parts of the world, especially Europe. And so obviously it's definitely going to weigh in on brand owners' decision making around where they spend their dollars. So when you think about brand owners, they have to make decisions around whether they invest their dollars in infrastructural developments, whether they want to invest them in the product and the package, or whether they want to invest them in having to pay EPR fees. And so I think you'll have more and more companies having to try to figure that out as to where to best utilize their dollars, and then also having to think about what is the trade-off in terms of product performance and whether or not they're willing to make that trade-off to mitigate EPR fees.
So our next question is, do you see a shift in the focus from recyclability to reduced carbon footprint, and how might that affect future packaging choices?
Well, I'll tell you that we certainly hope that there will be kind of a shift in focus from just purely recyclability to the total carbon or a greenhouse or climate impact of a package source. We think it's important to look at it holistically. Packaging plays a great role in product safety and product protection and extending shelf life of food and other products. And so I think all of those things have to be incorporated and thought about when we are thinking about what's the best packaging solution for a given application. And so we certainly hope that that's where the industry will start moving towards, is looking at things much more holistically than just being myopically focused on recyclability.
And next, is Sonoco using LCA today?
Yeah, so that kind of ties into the previous question. Absolutely. We have a LCA expert who has really come on board about the middle of last year, who's really provided additional expertise for us around LCAs, helping us to better understand, again, what are those trade-offs around different packaging formats, and how, again, we can deliver a packaging solution to our customer that has the best overall environmental impact for the customer and their application.
And our next question, is there a demand for total paper-based packaging versus using metal from customers as it improves recyclability?
Yes, I think it varies by region and varies based on the customer's goal. You know, we definitely have seen in Europe that there's been an increased interest in paper-based packaging as opposed to other packaging formats. In the US and other parts of the globe, we haven't quite seen the same push. But I think, again, it really varies depending on what the customer applications are and what their needs are as to which format is preferred. But we're certainly seeing increased interest in paper-based packaging.
And for our last question, how is Sonoco performing across sustainability commitments versus competitors in the packaging industry?
Well, I'd say that, you know, we're less focused on what our competitors are doing and really more focused on how can we drive the commitments that we put out there, and ensuring that those commitments are in line with what our customers expect of us, and that they're helping our customers to advance their sustainability goals and initiatives. And that's where we're primarily focused. We feel really good about the work that we've done. We feel really good about the commitments that we've made and the progress that we've made against those commitments. And we're looking forward to continuing to drive progress against those and to continuing to update you on how we do.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining our Sustainable New Year Resolutions webinar, and for being engaged and submitting fantastic questions. And thank you so much, Elizabeth, for your time today.
Thank you, and looking forward to updating everyone on our progress in 2023.